join the discussion via 0549-986-996, 0549-986-996. I am Selorm Adonoo and happy to have you join us on this platform for incisive analysis and riveting conversation. There are two key issues we're looking at this morning. In the course of the week, parents have had to converge on the teachers' hall area where the computer placement system is assisting parents with complaints to have them resolved. Hundreds of parents thronged to the center, and it's been the same complaints over the years. Issues of being taken to schools they've not chosen or not being placed at all. Therefore, there is a self-placement arrangement, but that appears not to be solving the problem. And indeed, many people have said that they've done better than many other people placed in schools they have chosen, and they have not, been placed in those schools. What's the problem with the computerized placement system? The real essence of the system, as we understand, from 2005, was to help reduce the human intervention, human error, and even corruption in the process and ensure transparency. But will you say that over the years, this has been the case? Indeed, we have seen reports that some people pay lots of money to persons within the placement system to have their schools get to so-called Category A schools when they have not really made a grade for them. What is a real issue we want to deal with? And also, we will take a dive into basic education generally and see whether standards are falling. There's been this talk about quota system, the fact that some people feel that public schools are favored above private schools. Is that a real issue? Shouldn't that be the case because private schools, or most of them, appear to have more resources than public institutions? But is it even a fact that private schools generally have more resources than public schools? Because there are some very deplorable private schools we've seen in rural Accra or even in Accra itself. What should be the discussion? Now, parents take their students, their kids to private schools. Final year, they move them to public schools so they can write on the ticket of the public schools, the BECE, and then get favorable posting to the secondary schools of their choice. What should be the discussion? Is the budget for basic education growing or improving? What can we do about all of that? That is our first discussion. The second discussion really is an ongoing matter, a matter we will not stop talking about until we see a proper and fitting resolution to. That is the Galamsey problem. This week we hear that the minister says that they are declaring all Galamsey areas or all water bodies in affected areas a security zone. What does that mean? Is that a watered down version of the state of emergency that was called for vehemently sometime last year? And we heard about a red zone a couple of years ago. How different is that? What is a legal regime for declaring these areas security zones? What does that mean? Are we going to have military or security persons there? Are they to shoot to kill? What does it mean? We need some more clarity on that, and we hope to get that on this show today. Kindly join the discussion like I stated earlier. I will take a short break. I'll return, provide some updates, and then we'll get the show underway. Once again, this is The Big Issue. You are welcome.
Announcing Ghana's first unlimited photocopy leasing. Yes, from just 983 Ghana cedis, you can lease a multifunctional photocopier and print unlimited. Yes, unlimited and free paper every month. Guess what? That's not all. Toners, repairs, and maintenance all are free. And oh, I'm not kidding at all. And we cover the whole country. Yes, the whole country. What are you waiting for? Just visit us at www.valexlease.com or call 0244 644048. Remember, terms and conditions apply. Valex Lease, affordable document management solutions.
Wake up in the morning feeling super fine. Don't got no time, yeah. Turn it up, I'ma strut my stuff. You see me walking on the block, can't get enough. Like nobody can touch me. They wanna be like me, but I got no time to get up, get up, get up. Now let's go. We gotta move on up. We gotta move on up. We gotta move on up. We gotta
play me for.
It's go time.
We gotta move on up. We gotta
call me.
We gotta move on up. We gotta move on. Now let's go.
Beautiful.
Get up.
Wow.
Get up, let's go.
Decent cross, Hoyland going for it. Out towards goal. That's a superb finish.
When it's go time to supercharge your hustle, make it go time for Go TV.
Get up, now let's go.
Love it.
All right, you're welcome back. This is a big issue. We are live on 97.3 City FM. I am Selorm Adonoo. Two key issues we're looking at. The first one has to do with the placement of BECE graduates into senior high schools. There appears to be a perennial problem with this. Every year, same problems or similar problems come up. We say we've solved them, and we never get to solve them. Next year, if nothing is done, the same problem will come up again, and we'll come around the table here to discuss it again. Why can't we solve this once and for all? There was a proposal, I think I heard it for the first time from Kofi Asari and Africa Education Watch, that let students select schools after their results have come so that they can manage expectations. I think the NDC, at one of their meetings, also espoused that, and there was a whole discussion about they having taken that or stolen that from the Africa Education Watch. But of course, that was what it is. So we're expecting that this year, students will be made to select their schools after the results are issued or their results are released, so they can manage expectation. If you thought you were going to get 10 ones, and so you thought you wanted to go to a certain school, result comes to make actually 15, obviously you have to change things and go to a school that can accommodate your grades. What has happened to that discussion? Is it a viable discussion at all? Universities do it anyway. Now, the way the universities do it is you can choose the schools, but after the results are released, the portal is open again, so you can make amendments. If that is too complicated for the kids, how about you open it or you allow them to choose after the results are issued? We'll see what that means. Also, basic education, are we doing the right things infrastructure-wise, the quota system and all of that? We'll deal with all of that this morning. Also, Galamsey is on the table. We'll deal with Galamsey later on in the show or on the program. Now, a quick one. Hundreds of parents and their wards on Tuesday, September 23, thronged the Ghana National Association of Teachers Hall in Accra to seek clarity and lodge complaints about the 2025 Basic Education Certificate examination placement. The anxious parents, many accompanied by their children, expressed frustration over challenges ranging from misplaced placements to difficulties in accessing schools. Parents cited the stress of long queues, limited information, and uncertainty about their children's academic future. Let's hear some of them.
My junior brothers wrote exams, and where they placed them in Central Region. But their residence was there, and they can't be moving from Accra to Cape Coast every day. So I'm here to see if they can do something about it. I would suggest maybe they do it more on social media, because everything is online. You can easily get access to it online. So maybe if they can do something about it, maybe introduce a new website or something like that, just to ease the queue here, because the queue here is very, very much. It's so massive.
My son, he selected 7 schools, first choice, second choice, and they didn't give him the first one. They gave him the second choice. And the unfortunate aspect of it is that instead of a boarding school, they gave him day. And the school is far away from Accra, in the Quota region. So, you can see the discrepancies. So I'm here to make sure that it's changed from day to boarding, and possibly to have the school in Accra, because I'm a single parent and I cannot be trekking between here and the Quota region. And so that is the very reason why I'm here. I've been here since 6 a.m. But the queue here is something else. And I wonder, how we cannot find a way of bringing this kind of pressure down. Anytime there's placement, I mean, you come to meet this kind of situation, and it is not fair.
Actually, what brings me here today is about the placement that they give to my sister, and that's why I'm here. And one thing is, he had grade of 18, but they placed her at Xavier Senior High School, so I came and made a change of school. That's why I'm here.
Looking at the field, do you think your concerns should be addressed?
No, I can't think because the people over here are too much over here. So I will leave and go and know what to do because even the people's inside the room is more than those we are outside over here. So I don't think I may get inside and do this for my sister. So I'll just leave and go. But what I want to tell the government is they should do something better. Whether if it may be the district or even the circuit, we'll be very, very happy because people have traveled for a long way to this particular place replacement. So I'm pleading the government to do something better for we the parents so that we can know what to do about it.
Now, the Vice President, Professor Nana Opoku-Agyeman, has also urged the Ministry of Education, the Ghana Education Service, and all other agencies involved in the placement process to treat parents with warmth and respect despite the pressures involved. She was speaking during a courtesy call to the Ministry of Education on Wednesday, and she urged the institutions involved in the placement process to be patient with parents and treat them with respect as they resolve their issues.
Doing school placement, and you have all kinds of people besieging not your offices, your homes, your phones, and all of them. What can we do? Let's just try very politely to explain the situation. What we try to do is to create more A schools with the E-blocks.
All right, so that's the Vice President, Jane Nana Opoku-Agyeman. This problem is not new to her at all. She was Education Minister for about 4 years, so she's supposed to have some good understanding of the problem. And we hope that with her oversight, now as Vice President and over the Education Ministry and a few others, we will see the end of this, and that's hopefully. All right, my guest this morning, Charles Aheto Chega, nearly called the doctor, former Director General, the Ghana Education Service. GTEC could have been on your case if I called you a doctor. Dr. Kovna Bempatando, former Deputy Director General, the Ghana Education Service. Kofi Asari, Executive Director, Africa Education Watch. Obinfo Nana Kwesi Jetwa, Executive Director, the Ghana National Council of Private Schools. And then we'll be joined by Hashmin Mohammed, Media Relations Officer at the Ministry of Education. Gentlemen, you're welcome to the program. Let me start off with Kofi Asari. He is Director of the Executive Director of the Africa Education Watch. Of course, he also chaired a committee which was made up of a lot of people, Conference of Heads of Assisted Secondary Schools, regional directors, etc. And one of the key things that committee did was to put together guidelines for bringing back the PTA as we knew it, and with some modifications. We'll delve into that in due course. But Kofi is no stranger to the show. He is the man we speak to anytime there is an education matter and we require the views of civil society. Kofi, welcome to the program. Yes, we've been seeing on our screens and visited the venue as well, where the placement issues are being resolved. These problems are not new to us, obviously not new to you as well. What are your general impressions about the problems this year and how the resolution problems or the resolution processes are being taken?
Well, the problems, morning to your cherished audience and to co-panelists. The problems are not entirely new, apart from one, which is new, a problem that was resolved in the past, and I don't know how it resurfaced this year. But generally, the issues relating to parents' resentment to schools that the computer placed them are normal, and they're going to be with us so far as we have inadequate resources as a low and middle income country. The government of Ghana has adequate spaces to accommodate all 590K or so candidates who have qualified for placement. What the government of Ghana does not have is the taste of all the 590K students. So there will definitely be some disequilibrium between the expectation of candidates, parents on one side, and government's ability to provide education to their taste. Everybody wants to attend a good category A and category B school. We have about 700 plus senior high schools. And then you have people chasing about 100 schools. So these, issues will continue to emerge insofar as there are resource deficits. The only one which I said that is not new because is the day issue. The day issue had been resolved. 2018, 2019, we did some studies in the northern region and also in western region. Specifically in western region around Adiambra, the locality within which St. John's school, St. John's sits. We found that there are many students living in the slum there, 16, 15-year-olds living on their own. And attendance, social vices, does not require any further repetition here. And so we, as part of our recommendations to the ministry, emphasize that placing students in districts outside their junior high schools was catastrophic because we're exposing them to living on their own when they are children without any parental or teacher supervision. And we cited a Adiambra case. There were reported pregnancies and other issues that affected them. And you go to a room, as a slum, you go to a room and you find about 6 people living there. It wasn't healthy. So sometime around 2019 or so, we realized that the ministry introduced a mechanism where one was unable to select a day school if that day school was more than, 15 kilometers from the location of their junior high school. And that solved it. So for some time now, we never heard of any issue of I've been placed in a day school outside my district, my child cannot live alone. I don't know why we are having that discussion today, because I know many people, many of the centers that we visited, the commonest issue was day-to-boarding conversion. If you look at the cases, same thing. And I'll give one example. There's a girl who attended school in Jokwa. On the GES, on the form, on the placement form, the paper that they filled. Okay, so I have the paper that they filled, and then I have the placement sheet on the CSSPS. On the paper they filled, she chose first choice, but some 3 girls, boarding. That's Ashanti region, but the girl is a junior high school candidate from Jokwa, Central region. Now, if you go onto the CSSPS, her form, you see first choice, but some 3 girls, it appears there as D. So that is one dimension of the day-to-border issue. People who selected boarding on paper, had it changed today by those who did the inputting for them.
As an error. As an error.
Yes, but in the past, the CSSPS wouldn't have allowed that error to occur because Buson Train is over 200 kilometers from Jokwa. So it wasn't possible for that girl to have selected any school beyond, let's say, Chufuhimai or beyond Cape Coast. Here's the case where the computer allowed that dating to happen. That's the commonest issue we have encountered, monitoring all the resolution centers. So apart from that, all the other issues emerging, I must say, are regular and systemic. Let me quickly say why I think they're regular and systemic. You see, if you read the Free Senior High School policy document, the policy document appreciates that the CSSPS, more or less, is at the center of its equitable access, system. In that is where the distribution of candidates to enjoy the opportunities under Free Senior High School exists. And so it's core. And it identifies that the CSSPS will be a major driver, of equitable access. If you read the policy further, in the results framework of the policy document, it acknowledges that by giving certain projections and targets for an indicator that it calls acceptance of placement. Now, here it projects that from a baseline of 73% in 2016-2017, the projection was that by 2020, 96% of candidates placed by the computer would accept. That is key to achieving.
So Kofi's line is giving us some issues. We'll resolve that quickly, and yes, we'll resolve that quickly and get him to conclude the points he was making. Let me come in studio and talk to Obinfo Nana Kwesi Jetwa, who is with the private schools. Okay, so I understand Kofi is back on. Kofi, yes. So you may go ahead with your points you're making.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Yes.
Okay, so what I'm saying is that the CSPS functionality is key in achieving the equitable access, targets under the free senior school policy. If you look at the policy document, it provides in its result framework targets for percentage of candidate accepting postings in the results framework. And it projects that by 2020, 96% of candidates would have been accepting placement by the computer. However, by 2020, only 85% of candidates were accepting it. I just want to draw attention to the fact that there are gaps in acceptance of placements not envisioned in the free senior high school policy. It wasn't envisioned in the risk analysis. In fact, I didn't see the risk analysis session, but it wasn't envisioned as a risk. But there were projections upon which 96% of candidates accepting their placement by 2020 was key in ensuring that equitable access objectives under the policy are met. So if by 2020 we were at 85% acceptance, it meant that there were issues. What were the issues? Our studies over the past tells us that one key reason why Kofi may not accept placement to a school is the state of facilities in the school. That's the first. There are many ones. The major one is the state of facilities. I go to the school, I look at the place, and I don't think I want my ward to spend the night there. Okay, so let's look at the state of infrastructure. By 2024, December, preliminary data we obtained from the GS indicated that 5,000 classrooms were needed in senior high schools. About 9K dormitory rooms, about 9K teacher flats for accommodation, and then about 300K.
Yes, go ahead. So we're having quite some issues with Kofi's lines, but yes. So let's come to Obinfo whilst Kofi resolves his matter. He was giving some data we were really interested in. But Kofi, you hold private schools. You are the people with the children. What is the problem from your side? Because every year we hear these things. You need to choose the schools properly. I mean, parents must be involved in the selection of schools. Sometimes somebody chooses, for example, grade A schools throughout, but that is dangerous. So it so happens that you don't do very well. Once one school doesn't accept you, all of them won't accept you. And now you come back with the same problem. What's the problem from your side of the coin?
All right, thank you very much, Senor, and good morning to you and the other panelists this morning. On the private education perspective, one thing I would say is that initially there were some sort of discrimination against the learners of the private schools. We know the schools in Ghana, I mean the senior high schools in Ghana, have been categorized into category A, category B, up to F. And these category A schools are the reverse schools that each and every parent want their children to be. And so initially, the quota system was that 30% of the allocation declared by the category A schools is reserved for the public school students, irrespective of the academic, potencies or grades that our students will get. So a typical example is that you put two children in the same school, one in the private school, one in the public school. The public school learner may get, let's say, 15, and the private school learner, but that child, if all of them chooses a category A school like Yasantua, the public school child will be placed ahead of the private school. So we took the matter up to Shraj, and as we speak now, the resolution is that that quota system has been reversed to 15%. This year...
It used to be 30.
It used to be 30. And so this year we are yet to conduct a survey to know the impact of which these numbers, whether or not it has affected the learners of the private school. But previously it was very bizarre. But if you go into the issues of the placement itself, Selorm, the whole issue has to do with procedural way of doing or administering our education in Ghana. This system has been with us for 20 years now. And at least we should have learned lessons and improve upon it. We know that we don't just start from just placing the learners. It starts from somewhere, and starts from registration of the learners. Start from taking the pictures of the learners, and even writing or administering exams at the district base. Ask yourself, at what point do we create a national collation or a national resolution center? When we are writing the exams, we do it at the district base. It is the district education office that manages and coordinates the activities of all these things before it gets to the placement. And so we are looking at the fact that if the district education office is well equipped with IT officers, free SHS coordinators, and other officers within the space of the district education, and they are well equipped, they will be able to resolve the issues within the catchment area. Because during the registration, these errors keep coming, and they resolve them at their district education office. As whether or not each and everyone has even heard that during examination registration, there are issues. It doesn't come out.
So they are resolved.
Because the offices are closer to those who seek answers from those kind of issues.
So your problem is the centralization.
It's the centralization.
System.
Because
but isn't it also the case, as we hear, that not so many people should be given access? And so if you give so many people access to the system, then you have people changing things you don't want them to change.
Then you are not trusting the institution that you have built as the Ghana Education Service. You understand? Because the
minister says he has no access. His deputy has no access.
Well, that is to the
DG also has
that's
no
to
access.
the minister. I'm saying that whatever be the case, is the human institution that you are working with. During the registration, these institutions or Ghana education officials work with the learners. They go to each and every school, take data, and build the system. During examination writing, these people are there to coordinate it, and we don't hear much issues. And so if you create a resolution center as a centralized location where all the issues are being resolved, then you are creating a chaotic scene that will lead people, because every now and then we hear the issues of bribery and corruption associated with the placement. And so the issue has nothing to do. We cannot say that we are free from challenges associated with education. It will be with us. But let us empower the structures that we have and ensure that those structures are working based on conditionalities that you set for them. Because those people over there, whether they have access, the regional directors, the district directors, they all work under the the Director General of Ghana Education Service, and they go by the instructions. And in fact, if you look at the statutory document that regulates the pre-tertiary education, that's the Pre-Tertiary Education Act, 1049. Section 2 speaks about decentralization of our education system in terms of coordination and administration to the district education offices. And so what then when it comes to the critical point like placement, all these schools that the learners want to be, they are all found in various districts. They are all found in various regions. Why is it that if I have issue, because they say if I have issue to change a child who has been given day students, meanwhile the child does not come from that region, I cannot go to the nearby districts for it to be received. You understand? The issue to be received and even have to be escalated to the national for assistance and directions. It is being given. And then when you get to the placement period, we collate everybody that all of us should come to a certain center before answers are given. Yes, we understand the regional, resolution centers are there, but they are not functioning, they are not giving, apt solutions to the issues that
Isn't also the Ghanaian thing that they want to come to where the action is in Accra? So even though there's a regional resolution center, because they don't think they'll
get the answers because we have given premium to the national center.
Which is the way the national center should have more resources.
Exactly, and so if that center does not exist, everybody will now go to their nearby center.
Are you suggesting that we collapse the national center?
Exactly.
Oh, we should collapse the national center?
We should collapse it because they will already have the offices over there. The GES offices are there. And that's what I'm saying. That
so the problem is beyond the regional.
It's not beyond the regional. It's just that we have not distributed fairly resources to the regions and the districts and empower them to do what they are supposed to do. When you go to the regional center, the national center, I've been there. Those people over there, they don't have any superior knowledge than the district people. And at least in terms of experience and those who even understand the terrain very well, the district education officers understand it better than those at the national level because they live with the people. You understand? At the same time, one point is that we have categorized the schools. How long category A or the category B school will migrate or develop to become category A school? The system is static. The moment we categorize the school based on the resources available as at that time, we have not done assessment to know that these category B schools are now can move from category B to what? To category A. Because over 20 years, if those times that we categorize the schools, we are expecting that new schools created would have been still within the category C or category D. But the schools that we created them during the time the categorization came are still remaining the same. So you could see that there are no progression, there are no developmental issues happening in our schools.
Yeah.
You understand? And so the fact that we have categorized the schools and we want the students to be within those schools, because everybody will want their child to be in certain schools that will give them career progression, because that's what we believe. Fair enough. But what are we doing to create miniatures of such category A schools in other schools so that it will ease the congestion? We are not actually pushing that kind of agenda.
So a school may be category A, but the school may not be popular. So we want the popular schools, and you don't create a popular school overnight.
Over 20 years.
You don't compare a school.
We are talking about 20 years.
Yes, but compared to a school that's over 100 years with a track record.
It doesn't matter. It depends on a consistent and intentional thing that we do to solve that challenge.
Very well.
So these are some of the challenges that we see that if the government sits down quietly. And you see, one last thing I want to add is that we come out to always lament that, they shouldn't, the people are not, if they pay money, they will investigate them. It's not about press conferences and all that. What we have to do is to deal with the actual situations. There are political, protocols that are there to solve or offer to other people as well. And those things have to be realistic. Politicians should look at it in such a way that if I'm a politician, if I am campaigning against this, I need not to do it. But if you look at it carefully, you will realize that there are reserved quotas that has been reserved for political and affluent peoples within the society. And so based on that, it gives room for other people to do things that are not in reality. And so if you look at the entire placement system, even though the statement came that 82% has been automatically placed, but those 82% are actually also want to change their schools again.
Okay, so they add to the pressure.
So the entire 82% will then tend to become a 0%.
I see. Great. Let's just hang in there. Mr. Adeshoga, you have been with the system for a while. You oversaw the Ghana Education Service, and which has the computer placement system under it. What is different? What worked and what hasn't worked, and how different is that happening, or is what happening today?
All right, thank you very much. I sometimes when I hear this conversation, I get very, very confused because there are a lot of issues within it. But I think that we can unpack those issues and begin to look at how we want to solve a problem. But we still want to identify the issues that have actually resulted in the need to literally, I would say, improve a system that will benefit us. And sometimes I tend to be a bit historical, not because I'm a history student, but I like the historical background as a basis of looking at what has happened in the future. And here it will look like you always want to compare what was before CSSPS.
Okay.
Or you want to see how were we placing children in secondary schools when we started admitting children. And when you look at that and you look at the present, then you can tell the real differences. Because some of the things Obinifo has said didn't exist in the past. And it's all because placement was done in schools, in districts, and in regions, not at the center.
At the center.
And it was done in such a way that placement was considered a part of the process of organizing the examinations, providing initial indications of which schools people would attend, and then providing that information and then giving out to the Ghana Education Service to do it. But lately I've been thinking and watching the system. I didn't have this thought until recently. I said, now it looks like there's a bit of a confusion. I won't say what is being done about it, but I'll tell you what the confusion is. Now, you look at how we have literally misplaced a lot of issues. GES is the one who literally manages that examination, right? And oversees the process of the examination. WAEC does the examination on behalf of GES and gives GES a set of results. The third one is the ministry. Now, when GES has finished, has done looking at the whole management issue, and WAEC has conducted the exams, what happens? Placement is done by the Ministry of Education. I can't say seriously for now that CSSPS is under GES.
Really?
Yeah.
No, it's not. Because Free Senior High School is not under GES. The Free Senior High School Secretariat is not under GES. Yes, it's not under GES. It is a segment of the Ministry of Education. I don't know how.
The DG doesn't oversee.
No way. The DG has no power at the free SHS. No, it doesn't have power.
But the schools, the basic schools,
very good,
or the secondary schools are under him. Under
thank you. The GES is actually looking at the secondary schools when the secondary education division existed, and that was how we did the placement through the secondary education division, who oversaw all of those things. In fact, if you came in the past, every confusion would be at the secondary education division, not the whole of the ministry. No, not at the basic education level.
So the free education secretary, SHS secretary is being treated as an agency of the ministry?
I don't, well, it's being treated as a secretariat under the ministry.
Secretariat.
Yes, under the ministry. In fact, it's the ministry that oversees how to really get those things done.
So what role has the education service, what role does it play in respect of
none.
Because when they are feeding issues, all of that, we see the GES.
None. You see with GES. You don't see GES. When they are feeding issues, they go to the ministry. They don't go to the GES. When they are feeding issues, they go to the ministry. When they are placement issues, they go to the ministry. And you talked about assets, and I want to bring that briefly in. Even when I was Director General, acting director general at the time, I didn't have access. I didn't even know what access really means. But we knew that we had created a certain autonomous organization or body called CSSPS, and we literally looked to it to help us do this process. So it's not a question
so
of...
even you as Director General did not have access to the
I didn't want to have access because I've given the task to somebody to do. And what access do I need? What I need is defining how I want that job to be done. So at certain times when the placement became very difficult, even in terms of looking at it from school population dimension, we had issues in terms of meeting with headmasters and making them get involved in the whole placement process by agreeing on how we were going to do the placements in terms of allocation of students to each school and how the headmasters will come in. So those are things that come into the system to create variations to ensure that the system can be properly balanced. Now, so when you have this serious confusion, then it becomes very difficult to, people are blaming the GES here, but the GES has no hand in all of this because it is not the one actually doing the placement as it is at the moment. Now, so we come to the original thing. I say, and I've said everywhere, that CSSPS is a dead on arrival system. And a lot of people will not agree with me. Because at the time and I sat in that conference in Dodua, right at the beginning, in Dodua, when we were thinking about CSSPS, I know the gentleman who was tasked with creating the software and all those things on the GES, on the CSSPS thing. And I had discussions with him as he was doing some of the work. Now, we had only one problem with the placement at the time. And I would say one problem. And that problem was protocol.
Okay.
Protocol was only our problem. But at the end of the day, when we have finished discussing the whole CSSPS issue, we didn't address protocol.
So what do you mean by protocol? Big people bringing
protocol is anybody who has influence going and putting quote-unquote pressure on the headmaster to take the child. Even if the child had not even chosen that school. Those are the kinds of things that we talk about.
So
protocol.
You couldn't resolve the issue of protocol?
We did not even know how to manage protocol in the system, even though we know that it's an ever-present issue in that process. So we couldn't manage it. And it lived with that system right from the beginning.
And the protocol has been expanding.
The protocol has actually been expanded, and that is what we have to deal with. If we want to be very fair and equitable, we need to kill that small elephant in the room called protocol, and then know how to do it.
But to be fair, protocol too serves a certain purpose. So, for example, the so-called grade A schools, president of the Old Students Association, they contribute to the school, they do everything. The old students will want to have a say. The chief in the area where the school is, the chief may have a say. He has a child or a subject who has to be in that school. So yeah, protocol, may have, something genuine to say for it. So throwing the baby away with the bathwater may not be the solution.
Oh yes, you can throw that baby away with the bathwater because
really?
Then yes, you can do something about.
So
protocol.
what happens to the old students?
No way. So I'll tell you where they fit into this whole arrangement.
Okay. We
are talking about how do we place children in the schools. If protocol is an issue, we can discuss protocol. Yeah. How do we deal with protocol? So if we have standards for how we place children, beginning from academic performance, looking at school population, and then, as Kofi said, you are talking about infrastructure and all of those things will come in to inform that decision of how to place students, all right? And not to talk about class size and number of students per teacher and all of this. All those dynamics come into the discussion. Now, if you place protocol at it, then you want to say that, quote unquote, your child has met all of those criteria. Now, if it is a way of giving him a certain opportunity to do because maybe the father is doing, you can deal with that one. But here you have situations where everybody, even people who have not chosen Wesley Girls, for example, will go and say, oh, my child has done this, I want him to go to Wesley Girls. Why? How do you want him to go to Wesley Girls? How do you want the child to go to Wesley Girls when, in fact, your child didn't even choose Wesley Girls? you know, or I want my child to go to West Girls. The child has chosen visual arts, but I want my child to do science. How do you do that? How do you do that? You know, so those are the challenges that we have, and we need to discuss protocol, and we need to put it right.
I see.
Once we put that right, there won't be a problem. Then we will need to deal with the whole selection processes. Private schools say that they have been discriminated against. Well, I don't know that kind of allegation, but I'll leave it for them to continue to bandy it around. Even in the selection of schools, some private schools select schools for children and give them schools. At the end of the day, they become part of that 82% who are sitting in the NAT premises. And
they select schools for them how? They select the schools together with their teachers and parents.
They select schools for their children.
Without the children's knowledge?
Without the children's knowledge.
Why so?
Well, I don't know whether Obenifo knows that happens.
No, but how is that? I'm a parent. Why should I leave? Then the parents are not responsible.
That is the point. I mean, you have some of those challenges with parents.
Yes, so the parents are not responsible. They are not forthcoming, but the time is running.
Yes.
The school may be forced to help by choosing schools.
I agree. So we are not saying that we want to blame them, but they choose for children.
Yeah, but then the blame should be with the parents. The parents must be more responsible and interested in their what's education and what schools they select, so that we don't get to this point. They don't even know what schools have been chosen. They are not being given any school. Then they now throng the center. So the parents must also take a blame.
So that is a fact, and I don't know how we are going to deal with that, but we can also deal with that. Everything has got a little bit of a solution once we decide that we want to correct it. So that is one part. So I don't even have any problem with that. Then you have talked about the parents' role. Certainly, that is the number one issue that we need to deal with. And you know I won't put parents into category, but you know the attitude of some parents, you know, which eventually then creates problems. Then we come to the whole CSSPS modalities for placement. And in fact, at certain points, they don't even go according to the modalities. Because the simple thing is that put a child in a school which is closest to the child. So you cannot send somebody from Bolgatanga Secondary School, from Bolgatanga Municipal, I don't know whether it's changed, and post the child to Ahantaman SHS. And in those days, sometimes you want the child to be a day student. It's unthinkable. And the parent will definitely object. So we need to really I struggled with that. And in the last days of my stay in there, they did the same problem, and I was going to really have a tough time with them, because I thought that we had discussed that do not place children from any district that is not theirs to other districts that is far away from their home.
In terms of the day schools.
For the day schools. You know, so that they will stay in their own environment and attend the schools in that environment.
Very well. Let's hang in there. Let me bring in Dr. Tando. You have been away for a while.
Yes,
he
yes.
just left the system.
Yeah.
Dr. Kwabena Bempah-Tando, good morning. Thanks so much for joining us on Zoom. Yeah, so a lot has been said about the problem. You just left the system. Are you surprised or concerned that the same problems we've been trying to deal with over the years are still there? Of course, Mr. Chaga mentioned the issue about protocol. Was that an issue in your time, and how did you resolve it?
Well, thank you very much, Selorm, for the opportunity to speak on this matter. And it is quite disheartening that we keep coming back to the same challenges over and over again. But I think, just like former DG Chega had mentioned, it is important for us to understand all of this conversation within certain context, because once we understand the context and everything else, then we can begin to figure out how do we address some of these issues. Now, in all of this conversation, we have not really discussed the placement process itself. And before we can even discuss the placement process itself, I think it is important for us to understand the first thing in senior high school education in Ghana. The senior high school education in Ghana, in terms of where people will go and everything else, the first key thing is that it is by choice. It is not. It is not by the government putting a student here or the Ghana Education Service putting a student in a school, but it is predominantly and actually 100% by choice. That's number one. Number two, the CSSPS system that we are talking about, if we would take out all the other hula balloons, it is designed in such a way that it is a meritocracy system. And so students are placed into a school in order of merit. And the merit mainly is based on their choices. Number one, if they choose a particular school, they will be ranked in that order by everybody else who chose that particular school based on their academic performance. Then they will be they would also be ranked based on who chose the program that they also chose. So if you chose a science program and someone else chose a home economics program or business program or a general arts program, because it is being ranked by merit, you may get, say, aggregate 8 and will not get into, say, a Wesley Girls. And someone may get aggregate 11 and get into a Wesley Girls school because of the program of choice and the competitiveness of that particular program. And so this whole idea of my child got a 7 or an 8, didn't get into a school, and someone got an 11 or a 12 and got into a school, what we need to look at is were their choices exactly the same? Then the third part is that it could be because of residency status. Your child could choose, say, Holy Child or Prempeh College, and they would choose this as a science program, but they would choose their choice as a boarding. Your child may get a 9, and then someone else may choose Prempeh College Science as a day. They may get a 12, but the day slots and the competitiveness of the day slots would allow the one who has a 12 to get in. So the first key thing for us to understand is that senior high school education in this country is by choice. And then we understand that the system, if you take away all of the noise, is designed in such a way that it uses merit and a ranking system to do the placement. Unfortunately, one of the other challenges that we have is that when people are given the option, when it was 3 schools, it went to 5 schools, it went to 10 and 12 schools, and it is now 7 schools. Regardless of the number of choices people are asked to make, every single parent and student thinks that their only choice is their first choice. And so every other choice, even though they would make that choice, do not regard it. And for that matter, do not think critically about, if my child gets into this second choice school, would I be happy? If they get into this third choice school, would I be happy? And so on and forth. But everybody, when they are not placed in their first choice school based on their own performance, then they begin to complain that I was given. No one is given anything. You are placed into a school based on your choice and based on your merit and your ability to be placed into that school. So I think
but of course, there are
to
situations where indeed they are actually placed or they're given the school where, for example, none of the choices has been given. So the system gives you another school. That also exists from what we've heard from the parents.
In that case, then it is based on data entry and data input challenges, and so, when I was still at the Ghana Education Service, one of the key things that the CSS people did was a part of the process called error correction. And so in the error correction, we use both technology and human intervention to try to reduce those errors. I'm not sure if that process has been taken out now, and that is why we are seeing a lot more of these challenges. But in the error correction, what usually happened is that after the students had done the placements, their placement choices were sent to them either through an SMS or some other process. And then they are able to correct where there might be challenges in how they selected schools versus how it appears in the system. And then there was also the final error correction that was done by the CSSPS staff once the results come, to make sure that all of the choices align. But in all of these, I think one of the other key things is, and you had mentioned in your very intro, that we keep doing this thing, but there is a recommendation for addressing some of these things. And I think that recommendation actually aligns with the way we were doing it before the CSSPS system, right? The recommendation is that after the students after the students write the exams and the results come in, then they should make their choices of school or apply to schools. Because once you know your results, then you can apply to a school based on your own understanding of your performance and the competitiveness of the particular schools that you may be interested in. Now, this is something that I think in your intro you mentioned was first muted by Africa Education Watch. It is a fantastic recommendation. I think Dr. Peter Anti of IFES has also been hammering this point, and a lot of us really think that it is a fantastic recommendation. I think that what we need to move away from is the whole idea of, who brought it. Give the credit to Africa Education Watch and Kofi Asare. It's fine, right? But take it and see how best we can make sure that we reduce some of these challenges. I think those are critical. Now, on the issue of protocol, which is what you brought me in to try to address, I understand Director Chega's frustration around the fact that protocols have not been addressed. And I do also appreciate your own understanding that, listen, there are stakeholders who have major interest in institutions. At the end of the day, all of our schools in Ghana sit on the land of a chief or a king. And for that matter, almost all of our schools as well, those lands, even though they are government lands, and they still are on the lands of chiefs and kings. We have a large number of our schools that were started by faith-based organizations or mission schools, whether it be in the Islamic missions or any of the Christian missions, Catholic, Methodist, Presbyterian, and the likes. So they are also major stakeholders. Then we have other major stakeholders, including, community influencers, senior people within government, and then especially old students who contribute immensely and the likes. So I think the thing around protocol is to figure out, I think I heard Mr. Jetua say it, if it means we're going to, at the front end, agree on percentages for protocol, that, okay, this school, out of the 100% number of students that are going to be there, will give 1%, 2%, 3% to this stakeholder, 1% to this stakeholder or stakeholder groups. And then within those, they make their own determinations. Yes, that conversation can happen. So I just think that protocol it's part and parcel of our culture. It is part and parcel of the way our system works. And it is in recognition of the fact that there are so many stakeholders and contributors to how especially our education system has developed over the years. And we need to give some reverence and credence and respect to that. We just need to harmonize and figure out exactly how we want to execute that, rather than let it be a bulk and arbitrary decision by one or two key people. I think once we do that, we'll be able to address some of these things. But critically, let me go back to the whole idea that we cannot do the same thing and expect a different result.
Great.
So if it is giving us challenges, and we know that, listen, you may think your child is a big fish in school A, but remember that this is a national examination with 500, 600,000 students sitting. So your child in a school of 30 and being first or second, remember there are about 20,000 schools that are also schools of 30, 40, and 50 students, and there is always a first student. Now, if all the students who are always first from all of their schools, or the top girls who are always doing very well in their schools, all of them choose, let's say, Wesley Girls. Wesley Girls still have a limited number of seats. So even if the top 3,000 or 4,000 girls choose Wesley Girls for science, Not only does Wesley Girls have a limited number of seats, but they also even have a more limited number of seats for science. It is only going to be the top 300 students where Wesley Girls have opportunity that will get in. So your big fish in your small pond does not equate being a whale in the ocean. I think that we also need to be able to understand that.
Okay, great. Deal with me on the point Mr. Tega raised about the Free SHS Secretariat not being under the Education Ministry. I think it's been so for a while. But what was the policy rationale of that? Education service is education service. Why? What happened?
Thank you. I think that one of the key things we want to understand is Free SHS came as a government policy, and for that matter, the government wanted it to be part of government machinery to make sure that its implementation would happen. The truth of the matter is that when Free SHS came, the placement aspect of Free SHS was still heavily being involved by CSSPS. And I understand Director Chaga's frustration. CSSPS has always been part of GES operations. It is part of secondary education and now part of schools and instructions. And schools and instructions still have a secondary and a basic division. I think over time, what has happened is that there has been an effort to try to exert more control over how the placement system was happening because Free SHS was really they wanted to encompass everything, and that is what may create this issue. But if you would realize, even Kofi made the suggestion, Kofi Asare made the suggestion, or he discussed the whole idea that when they did their research and identified some challenges and they made recommendations, those were taken on, and then we didn't see the challenges for a long period of time. Placement. Okay.
No, go ahead quickly. Go ahead and land quickly.
No, what I was going to say is that over time, what we have or what we are seeing now is a misunderstanding of what the placement system must do and who must have access to the placement system. Just so I let Director Shaga understand something. From at least when I joined the ministry, a lot of senior and key people had access to the system post the initial placement. The Director General had always had access during my time there. The CSSPS coordinator had always had access during my time. Myself as Deputy Director General, I was given access at a certain point. The Minister of Education, the Deputy Minister, so some key people were given access to help with especially resolving some of the challenges that may occur. Now, the access were not equal. Obviously, Director General and the Minister for Education usually had all access, including Category A, Deputy Director General, and then senior CSSPS officials, deputy ministers had access to Category B and the likes, and such. So if I'm hearing that no one has access now, then how do you resolve these issues? Even if you go to the resolution center and no one have access, what are they going to do? Write it on paper and ask you to go home? I think that especially because we are using this system, there need to be an opportunity to give some key people access. But then I would also end on what Mr. Jetua said. We need to figure out how to give more emphasis to the districts and to the regions to resolve especially some of the localized issues. Great. So that we don't continue to have those challenges.
Super, great. Let me take a few messages. And indeed, let me say that Hashim Mohammed is on, media relations manager for the Ministry of Education. We'll take his views. He will deal with all the issues, give him more time to do so. A few of your messages. Good morning. I want to ask, by officially ranking schools from A downwards, is a CSSPS system itself creating the very problem it's trying to solve? should we focus on making the placement lottery fairer or making every school a grade A school in the first place? Interesting. But we don't make grade A schools at once, or it takes a while, maybe. Good morning, Selorm. Jones Aduboinla says, I believe with regards to the school placement issues, we can do much better than what we are now. The challenges are surmountable. JDM, as in John Mahama, is a listening president, and he will make sure we don't experience this again come next year. Kofi says, good morning. Greetings to your panelists, especially Uncle Charles. We claim to be transforming Ghana through TVET. However, the discussion is all centered on general education. Let's put emphasis on TVET if we mean business. This one from Zoranu Eugene Sechofia, National Organizer for Graduate 2024 Recruits. You say, good morning, Mr. Host. I would like to use your platform, though not on the topic and our discussion, to Adonoo Tano, to just use a minute to touch on what he knows regarding the clearance acquisition for the 2024 graduate teachers of GES, since it was his very office that recruited me in 2024 November. Please, we need his voice to clarify the air as to what Professor Davis and the PRO, Daniel Fenyi, are saying. This one says, on the issue of teachers choosing schools for wards instead of parents, this is understandable within the context of the fact that some of these parents are ignorant and illiterate. So Selorm blaming the parents as being irresponsible may be stretching the issue. I get the point. Right, I take a short break. When I come back, we will advance the discussion. Don't go away.
Announcing Ghana's first unlimited photocopier leasing. Yes, from just 983 Ghana cedis, you can lease a multifunctional photocopier and print unlimited. Yes, unlimited and free paper every month. Guess what? That's not all. Toners, repairs, and maintenance all are free. And oh, I'm not kidding at all. And we cover the whole country. Yes, the whole country. What are you waiting for? Just visit us at www.valexlease.com or call 0244 644048. Remember, terms and conditions apply. Valex Lease, affordable document management solutions.
Wake up in the morning feeling super fine. Don't got no time, yeah. Turn it up, I'ma strut my stuff. You see me walking on the block, can't get enough. Like nobody can touch me. They wanna be like me, but I got no time to get up, get up, get up. Now let's go. We gotta move on up. We gotta move on up. We gotta move on up. We gotta.
Play me for.
It's go time.
We gotta move on up. We gotta move on up.
Call me.
We gotta move on up. We gotta move on up. Now let's go.
Beautiful.
Get up.
Wow.
Get up, let's go.
Decent cross, Hoyland going for it. Out towards goal! That's a superb finish.
When it's go time to supercharge your hustle, make it go time for GoTV.
Get up, now let's go.
Love it.
You're welcome back. This is a big issue, 97.3 FM, Channel 1 television, as well on YouTube. My guest, Charles Chega, former DG, Ghana Education Service, Dr. Kwabena Bempatando, former Deputy Director, GES, Kofi Asare, Executive Director, Africa Education Watch, Obinfo, Nana Kwesi Jetwa, Executive Director, Ghana National Council of Private Schools, and Hashim Mohammed, Media Relations Manager of the Ministry of Education. Hashim, give you more time to deal with the problems, so just keep collating them. I'll talk to Kofi Asare and I'll come back to you, Hashim. All right, Kofi, good to have you again. Yes, so we've seen the problem and we've tried to proffer some solutions. Of course, I take particular note of the problems you stated in terms of the spaces needed, 5,000 spaces needed, 9,000 dormitories, 9,000 flats, etc. Okay, so I understand I don't have Kofi yet. So let me come to let me come to you, Nana. So we've seen all of these. The schools, the placement system, or maybe the free SHS still being placed under the ministry rather than the education service. Dr. Tando has explained that it was a special government program that needed special attention. Now that we've mainstreamed that, nobody is taking free SHS away. It's become part of what we expect. It's become part of our system. Is it about time we brought it back to the mainstream GES, or being where it is now as a secretariat under the ministry serves the purpose and it should remain there? And is it a cause of any problem at all?
Okay, so thank you very much. The Ministry of Education deals with policy levels, policy formulation, and the implementation of such policies are under the hands of the Ghana Education Service and then the TVET service. We need to understand that, because now there's a TVET service and then the Ghana Education Service serving the grammar schools' interests. So the initial development of the free SHS policy came from a political standpoint of view. So it was understandable from that point that, as at that time, the free SHS would have been within a political, system, being directly under the Minister of Education. But now the policy has gained reach, and everybody, it's a national policy now. Everybody is happy about the policy, and we are all trying as possible to reform and make sure that the policy gains its, usefulness. It is ideal that the implementation of the policy moves from the Ministry of Education and come under those who are into the implementation of educational policies. Because I always look at the law that governs our educational delivery. The Ministry of Education, as I've said, is the umbrella body ensuring that policies within education is being architected. But when it comes to implementation, it is the sole duty of the services, the Ghana Education Service, and that of the TVET service. And so if there is a body like CSPS that has already been created, it has to come and sit under the Ghana Education Service so that its supervision and everything will be in place. But even as we speak now, if you go to the districts, there are coordinators that are working within the Ghana Education Service umbrella as serving as the free SHS coordinators at various districts. And so if we go by that line, there's nothing wrong with recommending that the free SHS policy secretariat should move to the Ghana Education Service and probably merge with other existing units that are there that could link and work with them. Because the director for instructions unit could ideally supersede the entire activities and ensure that most of these challenges are done. The issue, someone raised issue concerning the TVET, and I think it's high time we discuss that. Into the future, how do we ensure that the interests of the learners at the basic level is well harnessed, not at the time that they are moving from the JHS to senior high school that we introduce TVET education to them. There's a gap between, when you go to school at the basic level, we mostly do the grammar type. And when the child is moving to the senior high school level, that is where we introduce a parallel line that, you can go and do the TVET, and those who want to do the arts can also go and do the general education. And it is high time we mainstream the TVET education at the basic level. For a child to have that kind of flair and understanding and ambition to do that. Because if I have spent my time for almost 9 years, 12 years at the basic level, and you are saying that before I will be able to do the TVET, I must have reached the age of 15 or 14 years. At that time, the interest is built on something else.
So we need to relook at that whole system.
Exactly. And that will help the TVET service to be very visible, to do the things that they are supposed to do.
The way the TVET education is structured, because it is technical.
It's our understanding.
It's the technical.
No, it is our understanding in our context. Because when you go to other countries like China, you will see a KG child playing with instruments that are reasonably within his age limits. You understand? And it doesn't, so when we talk of TVET, it is not about those who have actually not been able to achieve certain kind of merits. And then we prefer such kind of solutions for them. No. If the moment we marry it into our education system proper and making sure that there are specific subjects tailored for such, ambition, we'll be able to achieve that. It is just about misconception that we have. If you really go into it proper, it doesn't matter whether it is based on practical sense. And even if it's based on practical, we have a school environment that can easily be able to accommodate the learners and build their interest in that.
Very well. Let me go back to Kofi. Kofi, good to have you again. Yes. So yes, you were giving us some data. 5,000 spaces or schools needed, 9,000 dormitories, 9,000 flats, etc. To be able to bridge the gap, to bring up education to a certain level. But talk to me also about this proposal you made about selecting the schools after the results have been released. For most people, that is the clearest way of dealing with this problem, because we cannot overnight transform schools from grade A to, grade C schools to grade A. Everybody's clamoring for the grade A schools because we don't know the grades we will make. So we think we will do well, and so we go ahead and choose the schools. It doesn't so happen, and there's a problem. What happened to that, if you knew? What are the difficulties associated with this proposal, if there is any at all, to select the schools after the release of the results?
Well, I don't think there's anything anything strange or anything complicated about the proposal. There's nothing innovative about it either, because that used to be the case in the past. I want to say that it is an intervention and not a solution to the systemic problem. It's an intervention to the challenge where we have people making unrealistic choices. Unrealistic because they are making choices without the full gamut of information that they require to make an informed decision in sort of the school to select. Okay, but it is important I go back to the point I was making, that if we are not able to upgrade the quality of infrastructure and facilities in all senior high schools to a particular average, even if they select their schools after the results are in, they are still not likely to select a school like Muzano College of Music. Yes, because you go to the school and it looks like a shrine. No one will take their child to a school that has a kitchen that uses tripod. Tripod, muchia. Schools in Syria, senior schools in Ghana using muchia and firewood. You understand? And so, if you look at the environment that a parent is supposed to deposit their child in, to live there for months, obviously that will still not attract that parent to do the same, even if they were selecting their results, their schools, after the result. So the fundamental issue is that we must understand that we have entered the free senior school program that has the underlying assumption that it is better for our students to access secondary education in dilapidated structures than not to access it at all. We have moved from that point. And so with that in mind, we should understand that it won't take 5 years or 6 years or 7 years to bring up to par all substandard secondary education infrastructure. It won't take that time. In fact, if we look at the trend between 2018 and 2024, what was achieved in terms of investment in infrastructure and expansion in facilities, and the current allocations under CAPEX vis-a-vis the competing demand from BECE and tertiary, go to tertiary institutions, there are more uncompleted projects in quality of education than completed ones. Go to our basic schools. We still have about 5,000 schools hanging on a tree. We have huge infrastructure deficits. So if you marry the competing demands from basic and tertiary to what is currently happening at secondary, it tells you that given the current pace of spending about 2 billion cedis annually on secondary education infrastructure, it will take us about 10 15 years before we can upgrade Canton to the level of Okapman Secondary High School. It's going to take about 10 15 years before we can upgrade Mozano College of Music to the level of Apam Senior High School. These are category B schools. So we must appreciate that Free Senior High School will not transform all our schools into the adequate infrastructure you should have overnight. It will take close to 2 decades because basic education is still requiring equitable financing to also upgrade facilities in underserved districts and schools, and same for tertiary education. That said, I want to emphasize that the government must be very, very strategic in apportioning funding between goods and services and capital expenditure. This year, Free Senior High School now sits at GET Fund. If you look at the GET Fund carefully, about 4.5 billion is going to Free Senior High School and other investments in technology, which is great. But you see, 2 billion is going to infrastructure. It means that GET Fund, which used to be the capex backbone in the sector, and by extension, the assurance of secondary schools having more investment to bring all infrastructure in all underserved schools to par, that assurance keeps dwindling. So every time you see more and more of GET Fund going into consumption, or what we call goods and services, then it means that the ratio of funding for goods and services to CAPEX is declining. And that's what we have in this year. And in years forward, it appears that since we are going to find free senior from GET Funds, we are going to have lesser and lesser amount of money to invest in hard infrastructure. And so we must look at innovative financing sources. GET Fund alone cannot solve the infrastructure problems in secondary education, basic and tertiary. The minister mentions 2.5% of revenue. It's a proposal the government has to revisit, because I'm saying the fiscal space available for infrastructure development vis the competing demands of basic, tertiary, and second cycles for infrastructure financing indicates that it will take at least 2 decades before we can upgrade category C's or the dilapidated senior high schools and technical institutions to the level of category B, or if you like, to the level of a standard senior high school. And within that period, we need consistent investments of about 4 billion every year. That cannot be championed only by GET Fund. And so we need to look at other funding sources, including more oil revenues, to augment the CAPEX we are getting from GET Fund. As for DOG, there's no CAPEX at all. So, yeah.
I see. Great. Thanks so much, Kofi. Now, Hashim, the ministry, I mean, this problem has been coming up every now and then. A lot of solutions have been proffered. What is the ministry's own thinking around the problem? Hashim.
Well, with regards to parents and guardians trooping to the resolution center itself, we have realized that a lot of the parents who have been there are parents who wants to change from category C, B to category A school. Yes, some of them, they do have genuine reasons, and there are some too, their issues are very, very difficult to be addressed, because some of them do come with aggregates that are very difficult to meet the category A schools, because some do come with aggregate 35, 37, 32, and then 25. And even if you refer to even the old system, for you to get category A schools, it was very, very difficult. You need to do well. And so majority of the issues that the resolution center have recorded are issues that has to do with a change from category C, B to category A. Now, going forward.
Before that, but is it that they do not understand the problem? Because you can, with aggregate 25 or 35, want to go to a category A school. You cannot. So is it that they do not understand what the categorization is, or they just want to come and try their luck? You don't take a vehicle all the way from wherever, go to the collation, the placement center or the dispute conflict complaint resolution center and say that you are there because you've been given a category D school and you want to change it to A, and what's your grade? 35. They should have understood that before coming there, or is it that the information is not available?
Yes, even prior to the choice selection itself, before the exams itself, the Free Senior High School Secretariat do issue out forms to students and parents to fill and then pick their choose and pick the schools that they prefer. And during that period, a lot of sensitization is carried out across the country in the media space and then even in the schools itself. One thing we have noticed is that some parents do choose schools for their wards without the consent or without the knowledge of their children, and it becomes very difficult after the exams. And some too maybe because they are all coming from the same, they are all graduating from the same basic school, they want to migrate to the similar school that is in the category A category, and it always creates a lot of problems. According to the resolution center, about 76% of all these issues has to do with the change from category B to A.
So how do you resolve issues, or how did issues like I chose science in a certain school, boarding, I got aggregate 6, somebody with the same choices got aggregate 12, the person got in, I didn't get in, and so I'm there to change it. How do you deal with things like, and in the first place, how did such an issue arise in the first place?
I think Dr. Tando earlier gave a very comprehensive analysis.
Yes, his analysis was in respect of the choices. Maybe you chose science, got 6, got 8. Somebody chose maybe business, got 10. The business guy may get in because for a lot of the schools, science is more competitive. So that, and he said that we should look at it generally and across the various choices. But what I'm asking is, we have instances where people have chosen the same things, science, same school, boarding, but different grades. The one with the lower grade gets through, the one with the better grade does not get through.
Well, it will be difficult. The way the system is run, it will be very difficult because the system takes into consideration the raw score of each and every student. And when it gets to a point that there's no longer vacancy in that particular course, then the system will cut off automatically. So it will be very, very difficult for someone with a lower grade to be placed ahead of someone with a higher grade. I think it is going to be very, very difficult. The difficulty has always been that, someone has chosen science, aggregates 8, he or she has not been placed in a category A school, and another student with aggregate 13 who has chosen maybe let's say home economics is placed in that same school, and that is what you have just explained. It is dependent on the vacancy and then the level of competition for that particular course. And I think the explanation has been going on well with some parents, but there are still some who feel that, yes, I deserve to just be in the category A school. And for me, I think going forward, like all the panelists rightly mentioned, maybe we need to improve infrastructure across board in all the categories of schools. And when that is done, I think it will open enough space for students to have their choices assigned to them.
I see. So the issue about protocol has come up. How are we resolving it? Does the placement system know and understand protocol? How we have come to define it? Is there a way the system recognizes protocol?
I am not sure. Protocol many times on self-manual, many times it is through the manual placement system. Because I am not sure if the system itself allows protocol placement. I think it can only be done maybe manually. And this is a system that we all have come to agree. And my understanding is that sometimes all students have interest. The chiefs in the locality in which the school is situated also have interest, and they are all major stakeholders in the development of the school. So you cannot just isolate them in the decision-making process of the school. You need to give them the opportunity to be part of the development process of the school, and hence this protocol placement system. Well, the CSSPS system is evolving, and I feel that maybe if there's the need for us to discard the protocol system as issues of that are emerging, I believe maybe policymakers at the higher authority will take a decision on that. But for now, I think this is the existing structure, and I want to believe that the ministry will be evaluating the CSSPS system, and after this process, and if there is the need for that to be discarded, I think a decision will be taken about that.
I see. Because you are the man with the solution, I mean, allow me to put more questions to you. The issue about the private schools, for the first time, we've had private schools being part of the placement, right? Where the free SHS, the placement. What category do you place the private schools? Category A, B, C, D, E, or we've created a new category for them, private schools category. How do we classify the private schools in this? And how do we assign the students to those schools?
Well, first of all, let's look at how category A schools are defined. Category A schools are defined by the performance and then the number of students showing interest in those schools. So if you have a private school where a lot of students are showing interest in it, and then the performance level is also very high, of course, it will be classified as a category A school. But this system is on a pilot base, and because it is on a pilot base, the ministry is looking at the level of interest by parents and then students themselves who want to be in those schools. And if it is after that, maybe a classification of that will be done. But many of these private schools are also out there for self-placement. And my understanding is that a lot of students have even subscribed to the private schools.
I see. So the assurance from you is that what? Every student will be placed before school reopens?
That is what the CSSPS Secretariat is working towards.
So school reopens when? On the 18th of October. So what happens to people who have... Say that again?
Yes, on the 18th of October.
Very well. So what happens to people who don't get placed by that time?
Well, we have opened up vacancies, and then we have the system has advertised schools that there are vacancies, and students who have not been able to meet the competition system have schools in which they can enroll or self-place themselves. And so far, out of the 107,000 students who were not earlier placed, about 90,000 of them have now been placed, and the Secretariat is still working on placing more students. And then students are also self-placing themselves in the system. It is our expectation that by October 18th, all students will be place in the system, and they will have a school to attend.
I see. There are a few text messages. Since you are the man with the answers, or you are the man in authority, kindly take them and then answer them for me. So this one says, this one from Swaka Desmond in Ahafo says, Senior Adonoo, listeners need the answer to the question that NACOP's executive asked. As how long does it take school from a lower category, say C, to become a category B school? How long does it take a school to move from one category, let's say category C, to maybe category B? Is it straightforward?
No, it's not straightforward. I think I've already defined that. The categories of schools are defined by the level of interest and then the performance level of that particular school. So if the level of interest moves higher and then the performance to also move higher, it will be migrated from category, say from category B to category A. And then it is also dependent on the existing infrastructure in that particular
Exactly.
school.
The existing infrastructure, the infrastructure is the point, because they will not just do well on their own. There should be a trigger, or there should be an incentive. There should be something that will make them do well. That is the infrastructure, the facilities in those schools. Not every school is well equipped. I recall many years ago, President Kufuor did something about upgrading, one secondary school, the model schools, upgrading one secondary school in a district or so to a certain standard. That clearly is a plan. So do we have anything like that from the GES, side of things, that maybe in the next 10 years, we are hoping to raise X number of category B or category A schools? Do you know if there's any such plan on the drawing board?
Well, what I do know is that it is the proposal of this government to invest hugely next year to end double track. And when double track is ended, it is going to open a lot of space. It will improve infrastructure and then improve quality of learning and then teacher to student contact hours, because you and I do know that because of the double track system, it has affected quality of learning, and that is what it is one of the reasons why the government wants to invest hugely in the next budget to end the double track system by investing in improving infrastructure across all the schools, not only category A schools alone, but across all the schools.
Government investing hugely.
That should be. Come in on this?
Yeah, yes, I will give you the time. Government investing hugely. I mean because that should mean double the facilities or almost double the facilities. Because if you have 1,000 students in track A and 1,000 students in track B, and then double track means that you are going to replicate almost, not the same, but almost the same number of facilities or classrooms, dormitories, etc., to accommodate this extra stream. And so I'm not sure how that's going to open up more spaces, because you need massive infrastructure development to be able to absorb all the persons in, let's say, the GO track. Do you get my question?
Yes.
And that won't happen over a year.
Selorm, it is the reason why government or the ministry has decided to bring on board the private schools. Because if you bring on board the private schools, you are creating spaces for students who would have been in the double track system. And presently, as I am speaking to you, this government have been able to move about 100 double track schools and to single track.
Very well.
And then moving forward, that is the initiative or the intention of government, ending the double track system and then expanding existing infrastructure, and get fund and the central government is collaborating on that. And
very well. There's another concern. This one from Achu from Tema. It says, Selorm, what Hashim is saying is one out of many. People in the private with grade 10, 11, and 15 will not get or get placed in category, and they get placed in category D school, while people in the government school with grade 20, 25, 30 will be placed in category A and B schools. Of course, obviously talking about that problem that private schools used to have a year, 2 or 3 ago. My understanding from this program is that the quota system, which used to be about 30%, is now been reduced to 15%. Do you still have those problems? I mean, is that still the problems we are seeing? And at the Resolution Center, do you get problems like this? And in your interactions with the private schools, have they still been complaining about this particular discriminatory, quote unquote, practice by the Secretariat?
Come again. Let me get the
yes. The private schools and the public schools. A year or two ago, there were issues from the private schools that they were being discriminated against because people in the private schools who got better grades were sidelined, and then people in the public schools with worse grades were given access to Category A schools. The explanation to that was that there was a quota system. And we understand the quota system the percentage is reduced from 30 to 15. And my question is, from where you sit, do you still get complaints about the unfairness of the system in regards private public schools quota system? Or you think that is generally resolved?
Well, the Resolution Center itself, issues about that have not come to the attention of the CSSPS Secretariat for now. Because many of the 75, we've had about more than 1,000 complaints, and almost about 75% of the complaints has to do with a change from Category CB to Category A. That issue hasn't come to our attention so far.
Great. Take this last one, and I'll come to Dr. Tando. It says, Selorm, good morning. Let your panelists know that there are cartels made up of school authorities, CSS, PS officials, and officers of the Ministry of Education who fleece unsuspecting parents of large sums of money, ranging from 5,000 and in some cases 20,000 Ghana cedis, to secure spots for such potential students. These are students who had not secured the requisite results for their preferred schools. Unfortunately, these students find themselves in such schools and perform abysmally. How is this malaise, which has been ongoing for years, being addressed? So this is one. The other point is, you know that people pay. Do you know that people pay to get themselves into schools? Has that come to the attention of the service?
Well, I think some people are trying very hard to formulate a conspiratorial narrative to make it look like the BECE placement system is for sale. I think prior to the placement itself, we ran a media campaign educating the general public that the BECE placement is free of charge. You need not pay any money to any person, whether Ministry of Education official or a third party. And so far, the issues that have emerged with regards to bribery, we have investigated all of them, and we have realized that there are no evidence, and we are still calling on the general public. If you have any evidence that you have paid money to any official of the Ministry of Education or a third party, bring it forward. We are also working with national security.
But Hashim, if I want my child to go to Wesley Girls, and I go to pay 5,000 cedis to whoever to get my child there, you want me to come and report to you that my child who is in Wesley Girls only got there because I paid money to get her there? I won't do that. Nobody will do that. So you have to strengthen the system.
Well, Selorm, the ministry can only work on evidence that are before it. And if there are no evidence, it will be very, very difficult for the ministry to go fishing around, raising allegations and placing it on the heads of people that you have taken this and then this. I think will not be fair to the
I get that, Hashim, but I get that. You need evidence to do the work. But it is widespread. People have been talking about it. They may not present any evidence. But as a ministry, you can do mystery shopping. You can get into the system. You can do mystery shopping. And people are ready and willing to pay. You can even come as somebody interested in paying to get your word into the system. You pay, you get placed, and now you arrest the people who got you placed. That way a ministry person doing that. That's mystery shopping. To get to the bottom of it, so you deal with it once and for all. So if you sit down waiting for people to come, they only come with stories or they only come with allegations which they may not be able to substantiate. But when you go on the ground yourself, like I've just said, and you go through it, and indeed the person is placed, you can pinpoint people, and that will be the basis for reforms. You don't agree?
Well, like I said, the ministry is working, or the secretariat is working with national security. And then there have been a lot of allegations that have come forward. They are investigating all the allegations. They are also carrying out their own internal arrangements to ascertain the allegations that are coming forward. And I want to believe that if there is any issues that maybe that can pinpoint to any bribery issue, I think the ministry will make it public for the general public to know. But for now, I think the system is on merit base, and so far all students who have been placed on merit.
Very well.
Selorm.
Great.
Selorm.
So let me come to Dr. Tando. Doc, you have the floor.
Selorm, thank you. I just wanted to respond to just a couple of things. Hashim, the first thing is that I actually like how Hashim ended, talking about the fact that there needs to be evidence to back up some of these claims of payments and things like that. Number one, I think you do yourself a good service by really understanding that these things do happen, and they happen a lot. And so the ministry needs not ask for evidence. But I'm happy you are talking about evidence, because if you are talking about evidence and data, then you cannot just make baseless claims that the double track systems reduce quality without the evidence, because the evidence is contrary to that. The data is clear on the fact that despite the double track and the free SHS system, quality has improved from as low as 19.2% in 2011, 2012, 23% in around 2013 and 2014, to as high as almost 70%.
No,
so
but,
you cannot just make statements.
Yes, I mean, I like how you have said your own question and tried to answer it in the name of data, etc. But that's good. I also acknowledge the fact that you were the brain behind, the brain behind
the statement was
the free SHS. I mean the double track.
The statement was that quality double track has reduced quality.
Yeah, but I'm saying that is still I'm saying that is still debatable, because how do you measure quality, and what is quality? Does quality only mean good grades?
Whenever we are talking about quality,
does quality only mean
when
good
we are
grades?
talking about quality education, as even Charles Chaga, who is sitting, DG, who is sitting in the place, whenever we talk about quality education, we are talking about learning outcomes.
Yes.
I think that this whole idea of trying to all of a sudden shift the goalposts when it suits us doesn't make sense. We have always measured quality outcomes by the results. So we cannot all of a sudden say,
so now the quality of the graduates,
measured quality,
the quality of the graduates, that should also, because I mean, if you go to school for 4 years, we are just not looking at the paper you come out with. We are looking at the totality of the being. So can we say, so contact hours may have increased, and contact hours will directly influence results, which is fine. Your argument, or the argument of the free education system, is being that contact hours have increased. But what happens to extracurricular activities? What happens to other things? You put the kids in class from maybe 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., learning. Is that what we expect? Is that how we are hoping to develop the human being in totality? But that's a different discussion for another day, Doc. We'll be happy to engage on that. But we'll be happy to engage on that, really. So I mean, Hashim
but then even if you look at the first set of free SHS graduates who completed university in 2024, the number of you can do the analysis, and then we can have a serious discussion.
We really will do that.
Their performance at the university has also really improved.
I see.
And we do know that, you know, in terms of extracurricular activities, you know, while the argument is that what is happening with extracurricular activities, sports has not decreased in terms of students' performance in sports and everything else. But I think that, you know, we need not just make these blanket statements and then just let it sit. I think it is good that we interrogate.
Very well.
You cannot just say quality has gone back.
I agree with you. We can have a proper discussion on quality. Look at the parameters. Look at the real outcomes. Look at the quality of the products we churn out, and all of that. I think it will be a great discussion. Yes.
And I know our time is up,
yes, yes.
but I just wanted to also, so I don't know how much time you still have.
No, just make that point quickly so that we see.
Okay, I just wanted to quickly, the 30% equity that Mr. Jetua talked about, which is now 15%. I think that we need to understand the history behind it. And I think Director Chega will bear me out on this, that 30% used to be what you call the catchment area equity. Because the idea was that if a school is sitting in Cape Coast, then at least the people who live around the place must also benefit.
That's fair.
So that is how the 30% public school equity started as a catchment area equity. It was expanded to include everybody in the country because we had realized that truly that 30% was being abused. And so if it has gone to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court is saying 15%, then the ministry just needs to be able to respect that. And I like what Mr. Jetua said, that they will do an assessment to see if that has been respected based on the law. The idea is that public school students should also have the opportunity to get good quality education. And in the beginning, it was catchment area. Because it was being abused, we had expanded it to say, instead of it just being catchment area, let it be Ghanaians who have attended public schools. Because in any case, 80% of our category A schools are about 50 or 70 kilometers from the coast. So if I am from Nankpanduri, how do I even get access to good category A schools? Because category A schools are not evenly distributed across the country. So the idea of the 30% public equity was to ensure that that child in Nankpanduri, in Goso, in Asumura, and other places can also have the opportunity of high quality category A schools and not just those in that particular area. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, Dr. Tando. Let me just say that I'm just seeing some message going around social media or WhatsApp about how much each person pays for which category of school. All category A schools, you want to change 15,000. First automatic placement, 10,000. Category B schools, 8,000. All category B schools, first automatic placement, 6,000, and it goes on and on and on. So it is a reality, it's happening, and I think we need to get in there and ensure that the system is fairer, the human element is reduced as much as possible. Mr. Hajitaga, so I mean, your concluding thoughts on all of this. What must we be doing moving forward to make the system better?
I think in moving forward, we need really to recognize transparency in a lot of all of this, because I think there isn't enough transparency in what we are doing. First of all, we don't even know what criteria we are using to do this categorization. And Hashim was right. Yes, it's meritocracy, and that is it. And I'll say this in relation to what Doctor was trying to literally stampede us into discussing. Quality is not only about learning outcomes. Quality is about a lot of things that lead to learning outcomes. And I know some schools that do not have some of these good classrooms, but the students are doing well. And I know some schools which have all the things that you can think about, and the students are not performing because there are other things that are impeding their success and learning outcomes. So we need to have, if you want a discussion on quality, I will be very much
we'll be happy to. We'll be happy to. No, very soon we'll have a discussion on that. Where we look at the hard figures. We look at the hard figures and
I won't discuss quality on this line on examination outcomes. I'll deal with it later. But the other thing is also we need to realize as a country that we are literally paying too much attention to what they call meritocracy, rather than looking at the broader picture. Now, we know that before you can get your meritocracy, you need infrastructure in the schools. Now, what are we doing about that? We're only talking about category A now, here sitting down. We don't even know how those category A's were constituted. We say meritocracy. And I can give you an example that I know. During my time, we had a school that was in what we call option B. We called it options. We had a school that was in option B, and I was told that they want to move that school to category A. And we did the option not because the school was performing, but we were looking at what facilities were there. So you cited an example. President Kufuor's model schools were all part of the options. We put them, some went into option A, and then depending on where the location is, and all, you went to option B and all of that. Because you needed to reduce people's expectations in terms of where they want to go. We didn't want everybody to think that, oh, Enhancement is the only school that you can attend. I won't even mention my own school. Widiba is something that you want to attend. Because we don't need too many people to go and cluster the things. They should spread out all over the country. And in fact, there's one other thing that we need to recognize. And here, these are social issues. People's expectations. I mean, in Ghana, we think category A schools are doing well. I mean, we don't want to be in a category B school. Some schools are today debating why they are category B and shouldn't be in category A and all. I think that this categorization is creating a lot of some of the problems that we are having to deal with, and we need to minimize that situation. And it goes with this whole perception of model schools. I don't like model schools because model schools is equal to saying that, oh, in your whole district, this is the best school, so everybody go there. Meanwhile, there are about 25 other schools in that same district. Everybody will run away and go to the model school, and you can't start talking about what do you call it?
But if you don't meet the grades, you don't get there.
That is the problem. My problem is that if you begin to talk about a model school in a district, then you are saying that is the best school in the district. Right?
Then by extension, you're also against grading. So this is the best school in the country. This is based on the results.
My idea of a grading will be taking all the characteristics into account, not meritocracy. So you say number of schools, this and all of those dimensions. You are looking at all of those dimensions in determining what is a category A school. But currently, what we are doing is just skewing the whole criteria to only one element and trying to package everybody into that element so that it will be classified as category A.
The criteria, as Hashim has told us, is the performance, which is one, and the number of people who choose the schools, and of course the facilities in the school.
But if you hear our discussion, we talk more about it, and I agree with him. Hashim did it very well. The number of schools, we call it highly popular schools. We talk about those things. And there are so many popular schools depending on where you are. And if you look at it and you want to do it across the country, you see it. You know, we are talking about some schools like Nabrongo, and even in determining that criteria, in some geographical locations of some schools were literally pushed into that category A because of where they were. And for me, one of my closing issue is that yes, somebody talked about TVET, and TVET, we have spent our time talking about
general education.
General education, you know. And I think we need to really look at TVET seriously and raise it up because there are a lot of things. And my brother from GAF said that at the basic level, we have TVET.
Yes, technical skills,
vocational skills. But I know you are talking about primary. At the primary, we can vary the methodology and include a lot more, skills-based activities.
And usually, I don't know where it came from, but we seem to direct people who have not done very well to the technical vocational schools. And so people may not want to
realize, if you even look at it,
it's a misconception.
No, if you look at it seriously, you realize that to a large extent, some of the students, and it goes to the argument where you say somebody didn't get maths and the person wants to do visual arts. And say he didn't get maths, so he can't get into the place. That's the way the argument goes. You know, because sometimes it's about the interest that people show to certain things that they really like, and it affects their performance in other areas, and
they don't make the cumulative.
So you need to look at it very, very conscientiously to be able to get this. And I'm happy that the protocol thing is coming up because honestly, we need to do something about that.
Very well.
And make it transparent for everybody to know. We are giving 30% to schools. Like I said, we gave 10% to headmasters. Protocol. We said protocol. Your protocol is 10%. Put your 10% in. Take anybody you want to take. Add it. And that will be added to the whole placement arrangement. And it balances and helps everybody to get a place in schools.
Great. Obinfo. The Obinfo means professor.
No, that's my name.
G-Tech will be after you.
No, that's the name.
Yeah, that's the name. But Obinfo will also mean professor in English.
Oh, that's up to the G-Tech people too. But
Great.
I'm not.
Your concluding thoughts.
Yeah. So, one thing we need to understand is that the kind of understanding we have in education in Ghana must be really looked at it. We look at education as someone who is able to read and write. And for that matter, we peg even our schools based on meritocracy. Which shouldn't be so. Because even if you look at it's very unfortunate we couldn't dive into the issue of basic education this morning. If you look at the curriculum framework which we are using now, it speaks very clear that at the moment you are moving away from the basic education or the pre-tertiary level, you have two options. Either you are entering into early stage of work, or you are progressing your educational level. Let us ask ourselves, these students who have just written their BECE are those that we started with them at the 2018. Let us ask ourselves, how many of them will be able to enter into the early work of work? We don't have. And so learning in our education system has only been looked at reading and writing. And those, at any point in time we are measuring educational outcomes, the thinking is that, those who got aggregate 1, those who got aggregate 2. But you shouldn't forget that the kind of assessment that we are using is more or less like putting all creatures in a sea and asking them to swim and then using it to determine who is the best swimmer. You see, so the ant will not survive, and you say that the ant is not good. We have not been able to come out with a diverse means of assessment that will assess each and every individual's potentials. And that is creating a problem for us. So it's high time we have to look at that. The second aspect, my brother Dr. Tando spoke about it, about the 30% issue justifying, is nothing here or there. Because when we filed the issues at the Supreme Court, at the Shraj, it was his time that they wrote a letter several, they couldn't respond because they are not able to justify the reasonability behind that. Because there are private schools who are within the underserved communities. It is the government duty to put education at the doorsteps of all Ghanaians. But we go to Kasua, the number of, that he has the data. You go to Kasua, the number of private schools over there, as compared to the schools of the public schools, you could see that the private schools outnumber the public schools. You go to Abusiankruwa, the Goso, Shidiem, Mem, Dantano area, there are private schools over there that the public schools are not there. And so are you saying that those students who attend those private schools should be denied because they attended the private school because they are not public schools over there? Why are you punishing such students? So those arguments are baseless.
Very well.
As you need to say that are baseless, and we need not to go into that.
Very well.
The end point I want to end is that the issues of placement is high time we decentralize the whole system and have a clear plan of progressing these category D schools so that we can know that within 15 years, I don't believe that it doesn't take a day to move a school from one category to
we must have
it
a plan
takes a conscious effort
to migrate the schools. Great,
yes.
Great. Thanks so much. Thank you so much.
But let me say this one last thing before I go. Quick one. You see, Kofi's issue on the children should pick their schools after their results have been released. Now, a reason why it probably has delayed is because one, it's about timing. I mean, you're looking at when the results are released, and then when you have to even try to place the children into schools for them to start an academic year. So the dynamics are.
But the placement is just by a click of a button. And
no, it's not as simple as that.
Really,
the placement is not as simple as that, and probably that is why it's creating the problem. Because if you want to place, you want to take other things into consideration and be sure that you are placing children the proper way. Because it's just by the click of the button. That's why we have all these things.
I see. Great. Thanks so much. Thanks so much, guys. Charles Ahetuchega, former DG, Ghana Education Service, Dr. Kwabena Bempatan, the former Deputy DG, Ghana Education Service, Kofi Asare, Executive Director, Africa Education Watch, Obimfo Nana Kwesi Gentwa, Executive Director of Ghana National Council of Private Schools, and of course Hashim Mohammed, Media Relations Officer for the Ministry of Education. They helped us deal with the matters of the BECE and placements. We take a short break. When we return, we'll look at the discussion of Galamsey. This is the big issue. Don't go away.
This week on the Upside Down Show, Selorm Adonoo and Nanatufo Boateng sits with Dr. Hannah Louisa Bisukote, administrator of the Minerals Development Fund. She recounts the ordeal she had to suffer as a child living with her aunt.
I went through what any child that you call abuse today went through. I had lice in my hair, and I have a lot of hair, you know. Everything was taken off, and I had sores all over. And my auntie would not let me be with my cousins because of the sores.
However, she didn't see this as a stumbling block as she moved on with life in Cuba. It wasn't all rosy though.
I left for Cuba at age 14, 1986. 14. I held on and to Ambassador Amogo Fred on to his suit as in Kofi. I'll be crying. Mosquitoes. You can't eat the food. I mean, I was crying.
But she learned something for life.
In Spanish, there's something they say, uno para todo, todo para uno. One is for all of us, and we are all for one.
So, make a date this Sunday on the Upside Down Show at 7 p.m. prompt, only on Channel 1 TV.
Habibi, my people, welcome to Dubai. My name is Sheikh Alkal bin Maktoum. Okay, so I am Caleb, right? Caleb Quota is my name, and this is Beyond Borders on Channel 1 Television. We are in Dubai. So join me. Let us explore the allure, the beauty, and the reality of life and living it in Dubai through the eyes and the experiences of our compatriots.
Imagine 6 people, 10 people sharing a common room together.
If you're not a na complain there in the sense, why do you share one rooms now? It doesn't smell pleasant. Or haunting no complaints now be bring to the fair no tomb.
Dubai is one of the most organized, highly resourced, and well-endowed countries you would find.
You've been here for 7 months.
Yes.
Without a job.
Yeah.
How is it like?
So hard.
Tell me about it.
Struggling, renting and feeding is so hard.
Every frame per second of their lives in Dubai tells a story, and we've got it all captured right here on Beyond Borders, only on Channel 1 Television. So don't get told, don't miss out. Catch these compelling stories of Ghanaians in Dubai only on Beyond Borders on Channel 1 TV this and every Wednesday at 7 p.m. I catch you.
Beyond Borders is sponsored by Copen Hospitality.
You're welcome back. This is the big issue. We're now moving to the discussion on Galamsey. Galamsey is a menace we've been trying to deal with. Various solutions have been proposed. State of emergency, shoot to kill. Now, what we are hearing is that the water bodies in the devastated areas would now be labeled or will now be designated security zones. What does that mean? We will seek some understanding in respect of that. But before that, let's provide you some information on what the levels are now. So the national summary report by the Food and Drugs Authority has revealed alarming levels of heavy metal contamination in some food and cosmetic products sold on the Ghanaian market. The assessment conducted across all 16 regions with support from UNICEF tested for lead, cadmium, and mercury in turmeric, cereal mixes, also known as Tom Brown, bentonite clay, ayilo, coal, as in kaji, and certain skin lightening creams and lotions. The findings show that coal had the highest contamination rate, with 77.79% of samples testing positive for lead. The Upper East and Eastern regions recorded a 100% contamination rate for the product. Turmeric also recorded 42.09% contamination rate for lead, with the Greater Accra and Central regions topping the list. Cereal mixes were found to contain 29% contamination from cadmium, particularly in the Northeast, Northwest, and OT regions, while bentonite clay, ayilo, recorded 24.62% lead contamination rate, mainly in the Northeast and Greater Accra regions. The report noted that unbranded products, especially those sold in open markets and retail shops, were the main sources of contamination. However, some skin lightening creams and lotions achieved full compliance in certain regions with no mercury contamination detected. This is the gravity of the situation we have at hand. Water bodies, Ayensu and Pra and other ones, have been heavily polluted, and all due to the Galamsey menace. My guest this morning, Esmond Wisdom Kwanzaa, Country Director, Pure Earth Ghana, Pakwesi Skandov, Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, and Ken Ashigbe, Chief Executive for the Ghana Chamber of Mines. Gentlemen, welcome to the program. Let me start off with you, Esmond Wisdom Kwanzaa. Good morning. Thanks for joining us. What is your understanding, or what's the basis for this work that yourself and some other people did, which exposed the contamination levels in the designated or the stated items: turmeric, cereal mixes or Tom Brown, ayilo, kaji, and certain skin lightening creams and lotions?
Great. Thank you very much for having me. It's an honor to be on your show. I want to start by saying that our study was disseminated last week, which focused largely on assessment in soil, water, air, crops, and fish. So what FDA reported or released within the week just reinforced the situation that we've also seen in our study. So I will start by saying that Pure Earth is a non-profit environmental health organization committed to solving the global pollution crisis with practical, evidence-based solutions. We work to protect people, especially children, pregnant women, and the planet from the harmful effects of toxic pollution, with a current focus on reducing lead and mercury exposure in low and middle income countries. Our research focused on assessing the concentrations of mercury, lead, arsenic, and cadmium in soil, water, air, crops, and fishes. The result paints a concerning picture, one that demands urgent attention and coordinated action. We found shockingly elevated levels of these toxins in numerous locations in soil samples. So the study was carried across 6 regions: Eastern, Western region, Western North, Ashanti region, Central region, and Savannah region. In some places, mercury concentrations exceeded global guidelines by over 500%. We're talking about Konongo, Zongo. Water sources are contaminated with dangerous levels of arsenic and lead. And alarmingly, we are finding these heavy metals in the food we eat. Vegetables like contomere, pumpkin leaves show mercury and arsenic levels above the safety limit set by international health organizations. We also discovered some of these heavy metals in fish exceeding acceptable thresholds. This isn't just an environmental issue anymore. It is a direct threat to public health, especially for the vulnerable groups like children and pregnant women. Mercury exposure in particular can have devastating neurological effects impacting cognitive functions, motor skills, and sensory development, especially in unborn children and infants. Lead exposure also, as we know, can severely impair brain development. Arsenic and cadmium are linked to a host of serious ailments, including kidney damage, respiratory problems, and even cancer. The cumulative exposure to this cocktail of toxic metals through injection, inhalation, and dermal contact is a serious health hazard. It is also a threat to our food security, as contaminated fish and vegetables undermine nutrition and local market. So for us, the report by FDA this week have just reinforced what we've already seen, and there's a need for action to be taken. For years, we've witnessed environmental destruction caused by illegal mining. They ravage landscapes and polluted water bodies. But this study reveals a far more insidious consequence: the contamination of our food chain. Illegal mining is no longer just an environmental problem anymore. It poses an existential threat to us all.
I see. That's quite interesting. And I mean, very ominous indeed. But do we know, or did we trace where the items, the vegetables, and all of those things used in the study were taken from, so that maybe those were from typical mining areas, not just the region specifics, or maybe those were watered or irrigated by water from polluted water bodies, or it's just in the soil? Did we know that, or do we know that?
So I cannot speak to the FDA report because our report was focused on assessing heavy metal impact in the food chain along the mining areas. Okay. So where we have the illegal mining activities happening or abandoned mining activities were the areas we assess. The second stage of our study was going to focus on whether crops grown along or around this site are taken to nearby markets to sell. What we did in our study, which was done in collaboration with FDA, with funding from the British government, is to undertake the study in proximity to agricultural produce, ASGM or artisanal mining or Galamsey activities in density areas. We also look at community proximity and population exposure. These were all considered, including mercury usage, in undertaking the studies around these sites in this region where this is undertaken.
I see. Just hang in there for me. Let's speak to Skandov Ayrebiakwa, who is media officer at the Lands and Natural Resources Ministry. Skandov, good morning. Welcome to the program. What is the plan really? Now, it does appear that the rubber is meeting the road. We are beginning to see the impact or the implications of the menace or the consequences now getting into food we eat and even health challenges, etc. What is the plan? What is the ministry doing about this? We hear this week that there will be a declaration of security zones for some places, etc. What is the grand plan, please?
All right, Selorm, good morning, and I'm very excited to be part of the conversation this morning. I was listening very attentively to Doc in his submission, and the reality of the matter is that the scary details that he disclosed are not facts that we are not aware of at the ministry. Indeed, there are even more reports that point to the threatening and hazardous situation that we find ourselves in. But be that as it may, the ministry as of now is overwhelmingly concerned, and that is what has basically instigated the latest raft of interventions that we are rolling out now to deal decisively with the menace of illegal mining. The first, or rather, let me say the most prominent one now as we speak, is the declaration of all water bodies and forest reserves as security zones. And yesterday, the Secretary Minister Emmanuel Amakofi-Boa had calls to reiterate it very emphatically that effective very soon. We would communicate the specific date very soon, but effective moving on from now, anybody who is found in any of the 44 forest reserves or mining along or close to any of the water bodies, like he rightly indicated, those individuals who have themselves to blame. Because yes, the report is scary, and even beyond this, there are other dark consequences that as of now are staring us in the face. But despite the enormity of the issue, government is equally committed. We are rolling out a raft of very competent interventions to deal decisively with the issue. And so, like we've always reiterated, we should start seeing some progress soon. What all of us, however, have to honestly understand is that yes, illegal mining did not begin today. Indeed, it is a menace that has been with us for a very long time. And not to politicize the situation, but over the last 8 years, it has particularly escalated and deepened. And so, given the situation, it is impossible, with the greatest of respect, not to sound evasive, exclusive, or condescending. But the truth is that the devastation that has deepened over the last 8 years cannot be undone within the 9 months of this particular administration, or even within the very short possible time. But regardless of that, our policies are in place. There is the political will. There are intelligence measures that have been deployed. And so, Selorm, very soon, some of these reports will be off our table so that when we are eating, we will not have the fears again. I mean, just this weekend, for example, there is a family anniversary that is being held at home. When you hear reports of this nature, it eats into your consciousness. Where is the food coming from? The elements that we use for celebration and all of that. And I believe, apart from ourselves, Ghanaians in general are equally concerned. The ministry is concerned as well, and the issue will be dealt with appropriately.
I see. Great. You say that the situation cannot be undone or resolved just in 9 months or within a very short time. That's understandable. That's clear. But what people are calling for are drastic measures which are more drastic than we saw in the past. So, for example, I think a lot of people lost you lost a lot of people when, instead of repealing the act, for example, the LI, you decided to amend the LI. People still don't understand why the U-turn, because prior to regime change, we were all on one page that repeal it immediately. And indeed, the previous government did start some process of repealing it. You come only to amend certain portions. That didn't sit well with people. Of course, I've seen a statement from the ministry saying that when parliaments get back, they're going to start the repeal process, which is commendable. But the question is, did we have to do that U-turn before coming back to what we all agreed was the way forward? We talked about declaring state of emergency. We were all on one page singing the civil society, etc. That has gone under the radar, and now we are hearing of security zone. I mean, what has changed? Hello, Pakwesi. I think I've lost Pakwesi. Hello, Pakwesi. Hello, Pakwesi. Well, Pakwesi is the media officer for the Lands Ministry, Pakwesi Shandov. He was helping us appreciate what the ministry is being up to in respect of the Galamsey fight. And we were happy to engage him further on some of the matters. But we hope to get him back. Hello, Pakwesi. Pakwesi, are you back? All right, we'll try and re-establish connection with Pakwesi so that he
No, Selorm, I'm actually here. I was rather not getting you. I'm here.
Oh, okay. So I don't know whether you got my question. Did you get my question?
No, I didn't get the question.
So my question is that, yes, you said, sorry, that, of course, the devastation caused over the last 8 years is so massive that it cannot be resolved or undone in 8 months or 9 months. We agree. But what I'm saying is, or what people expect is, the approach should be more forthright. The approach should be more brutal than we have seen. So, for example, we all agreed prior to the elections that the LI must be repealed. The previous government indeed started some process to repeal it. We have a new system now, and instead of repealing it, which we all agreed to do, now we have an amendment And people, you lost a lot of people just by that singular decision. Now, we've seen a statement from your ministry saying that the repeal will be on when Parliament comes, but that's great. I was wondering why the U-turn from the previous repeal, and now we're bringing another repeal, now talking about repeal again. The other point is that we had also generally agreed to impose state of emergency on some of these highly devastated areas. That is also being shied away from, and now we are talking about declaring those areas, water bodies in those areas, as security zones. So these have been frustrating to the people. And the question is, what is the problem? What has changed? Why is it so difficult to deal with the things we spoke about in the past as being the solution somewhat to the problems of Galamsey we've seen in the communities?
Okay, so a bit of context, I believe, is important here for us to understand the situation. I want to touch first on the issue of the declaration of state of emergency. For a lot of critics, their argument has been that, well, the government of the day is being hypocritical because back in opposition, the call was loud and clear, declare state of emergency. That was the call to the government of the day then. Now it comes to power and then it is shying away from that. I think we need to appreciate the context. Why was the NDC back then calling for the declaration of a state of emergency? The state of emergency that became rife, the cause and advocacies that became rife were actually because over the last 8 years, that is from 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, all the way to 24, it had become apparently clear that the measures that government had rolled out were not helping in the fight against illegal mining. And that is why then we had come to that point where we said that, look, under the circumstances, let's declare a state of emergency because all the rafts of interventions were not working. So it came at the end in the dying members of the MPP's administration. Now we took over, and then over just within 6 months, the 9 forest reserves, which previously had been occupied by armed illegal miners and thugs, were successfully repossessed. Indeed, that was one of the core reasons that we were asking for a state of emergency to be declared. But we came in and within a period of 6 months, we were able to repossess it. In fact, yes, recently we have heard that there have been some mild resurgence into those areas. All of those individuals who have gone back have also been flashed out. So because we had been able to, as it were, redeem the major threat, the sense of emergency under the circumstances has become moot. Why? Because we have dealt with the substantive issue. Now on LI 2462, again, it is true. The critics have said that, okay, why the up and down? Why can't you just do the needful, go for the jugular and bite the bullet and all of that? This is the truth of the matter. If you study LI 2462 critically, you realize that the actual bone of contention is section 3.2, which, of course, gave the president unfettered access to grant permission for mining to occur in forest reserves. The amendment that was done was to take care of that section 3.2 by blotting it out. And so, effectively, the law then became moot. But now we are even progressing to do away with the entirety of the law. And so, if you look at the substance of the amendment, with the greatest of respect, it is actually, we may as well say that it is as good as a substantive repeal, because what was really the bone of contention where LI 2462 was concerned? What was the bone of contention? Section 3.2, where the president and the minister, the environment minister, had the right to grant access to forest reserves. That was taken out. Now we are doing away with the entirety of the law. And so what we did by way of an amendment was only part of the broader vision towards a complete repeal. And so it is only procedural, or let me say it is just one after the other. We have done one. When Parliament reconvenes, we are going to do the other one. Now, there is also and I'm concluding on this one. There's also the concern that, look, again, the government of the day is pussyfooting the issue, because why would you, back in opposition, call for the declaration of a state of emergency? You assume and constitute government, and then you are talking about declaring areas as security zones. I think, Selorm, we should move away from the nomenclature and the labeling and what things look like, and focus more on the substance. For the 44 forest reserves and the water bodies that are going to be declared very soon as security zones, the question we should be asking ourselves is that, what is the implication of that declaration? Indeed, it is equal or almost the same as what a state of emergency would give us. Why? Because one, there would be uninterrupted military surveillance at all of those places, in the sense that the military will be there 24/7. as the person who is also the spokesperson for the National Anti-Illegal Mining Operations Secretariat, I can confidently tell you that the roadmap has been drawn already. The strategy has been concluded and discussed. It is only a matter of deployment and implementation. And that would ensure that nobody goes to any of the forest reserves or the water bodies in the first place. If a state of emergency were to be declared, the outcome would still be the same. And so we should not be, as it were, so bothered about the name. And so, because you see, sometimes too, and again, I don't say this in a very condescending way, but the truth of the matter is that it has appeared that some of us have maybe perhaps unconsciously projected the declaration of a state of emergency as a certain magic wand that can naturally change the narrative and redo the status quo. It is not the case. It's not the case at all. So we should maybe be careful how we see the declaration of a state of emergency. Yes, it was necessary back then because of the situation that we were in. As of now, we are not in that situation. Now we have a new plan, which is equally combative, which is equally forceful, which is equally aggressive, and which would even deliver far more results. But I will conclude on this note. When the President of the Republic, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, had cause to engage on this particular subject, I think he made it clear that the declaration of a state of emergency is not off the table, in the sense that when we get there, when we exhaust all available options and we come to the place where we see that, look, we have now been able to exhaust all options, we are not getting the appropriate results, that consideration may become effective. But for now, let us exhaust all that we have. And finally, in concluding, I have had cause to say on several other platforms that when it comes to the fight against illegal mining, it is not so much also about the policy interventions. You need political will, because the truth of the matter is that you can roll out a very intelligent and very well thought out strategies and policies and mechanisms to deal with the issue. But if you don't have the political will to back it, it will be much ado about nothing, because the people who perpetuate illegal mining, many of them are politically connected. They are the high ups in society. So the government of the day must be able to have the willingness to crack the whip regardless of whose ox is God. That is basically the element of political will. Gladly, the President of the Republic has that disposition now. The Secretary Minister, the Honorable Emmanuel Amakofibwa, is also in that same frame. Indeed, the entirety of the ministry is pushed that way. And so at least we can begin to hope for better things once more, where we would not hear stories where Galamsey is being allowed to happen because certain political sponsors or political financiers need money. And evidence of the abundance of political will that we have now is embedded in the fact that, Selorm, as I speak to you, you have the third national chairman of the National Democratic Congress, as well as the party's national organizer, being subjects of interest in an ongoing investigation. And just yesterday, the minister made it clear that nobody will be spared. No big man whatsoever will be allowed to do anything that he pleases. He indicated that the only big man is the president. And so long as the president has given the go-ahead, nobody will be spared. Once we have the political will with the competent draft of interventions, very soon we are certain that our forests will become green and our waters will return to their blue, pristine nature.
I see. I mean, great points you made. But there were things you were told will happen. So, for example, using the chassis numbers or tracing the owners of the excavators through the chassis numbers, etc. What is the status of that? Have we started, or we are yet to start with that one?
Okay, so this is the situation with the excavators. As I speak to you, there is a mechanism that has been deployed that is able to monitor each and every excavator that is imported into the country, right from their departure from the port all the way to wherever they are going to be stationed. And it is a GPS tracking system. Now, what it does effectively is that, first of all, it is able to gauge the specific location where the excavator goes and for what particular purpose it is being used for. Indeed, there is a whole department at the Minerals Commission, a whole room, if I have to put it that way, that monitors the movement of all of these excavators. I have the numbers of the tally, of the numbers of excavators that currently are being tracked, but I don't want to err on it, and so I'm sure I can communicate it specifically later.
And so are we saying that now, from the monitoring, we've not seen any of these excavators moving to areas they are not supposed to be moving to?
Absolutely.
So what then, if they are not moving to the areas they are not supposed to be moving to cause devastation, then how are we seeing the worsening of the situation?
So those excavators, the worsening of the situation is because some excavators previously, prior to now, had already been moved into the forest reserves without this tracking mechanism. That is the situation. But
how long?
but
can't we, when we move into the forest, the narrative is that the people run away. So sometimes when they run away and they leave their excavators behind, can't we seize them? Can't we get these chassis numbers, or can't we put these trackers on them? Because I don't think it's enough excuse to say that for 9 months there are still excavators hiding at places, plenty enough to cause the levels of devastation we are seeing.
No,
that should be the reason why we cannot do this.
We have over 440 excavators that have been seized and impounded over this nine months period. Over 440 of them have been impounded and seized, and are currently in the custody of the various district police, commands, and the regional police commands, and all of that. The point I'm making is that all of those were in the past, but as of now, there is no new excavator, and I'm saying that on record. There is absolutely no new excavator whatsoever that is moving into any mining community, because right now we are stopping the bleeding by introducing the system that does the monitoring right from the port. But the ones that have already gone, well, we are using the National Anti-Illegal Mining Operations Secretariat, the NIMOS, to, as it were, clamp down on them. And that is what I'm saying, that over the period we've been able to impound some 440 plus. I'm not so sure of the number. I even think it exceeds the 440. So there's a program, an operation to clear the ones that have already gone, that are causing the devastation. After that, no new one will go again. And with that GPS system, all other heavy earth moving equipment will not have access into our forest reserves whatsoever to be used for illegal mining activities.
So you see, I think listening to you, it appears you have compartmentalized the problem into two: pre your coming, and then now that you are in. But the problem.
Selorm, I didn't get the question.
What I'm saying is, you didn't say it expressly, but what I glean from what you are saying is that you are looking at a problem as in what you came to meet and what you are doing about it, which is fair. But what the gap, or what you're missing, is that the devastation doesn't see it that way. The devastation has been seamless and continuous. So if you say that, for example, all new excavators are on a certain system, and the ones which may be in the forest causing devastation were those of the past, it doesn't do justice to it, because they are still causing the devastation, and the situation may be getting worse. Now it gets scary.
We are chasing after them.
You're chasing after them.
Yes, that's
and for 9 months, we've not been able to. So, for example, the 9 forest reserves that you say have been reclaimed. Are you saying that excavators in all those forest reserves have been seized? And if the 9 forest reserves which have been reclaimed have all excavators seized, where are these ones coming from then?
So you see, Selorm, again, I do not want to compare the inaction of the past to the now, because anytime you engage in that conversation, it makes the whole narrative a bit political. But prior to now, thousands of excavators had unaffected access to our forest reserves. They were just going there up and down. Now we constitute government, and within the 9 months period, I am saying, I'm not so sure of the number, but well over some 444 have been impounded. I think it is fair for us to look at it from this angle, that, okay, we came in, we met a situation, we stopped the bleeding by introducing the tracking system. The ones that have already found their way, you are using the instrumentality and medium of NIMOS to get them out. It cannot, of course, be flashed out completely in a day. But are we making progress? Yes, of course, we are making progress. And it is a daily affair. Indeed, just last week, the Arianfutu of Finso shelter bed, for example, some armed illegal miners re-entered the forest that have been repossessed with equipment, excavators, and all of that. NIMOS went in, NIMOS flashed them out. So long as there is there are operations that are flashing them out, we can only begin to count the days and then count our successes as well. But the honest truth is that, like I've earlier indicated, we would be, building castles in the air if we say that, look, for all the thousands, 2,000s of excavators that have gone into the forest reserves over the last 8 years, we are going to use 9 months to take all of them out. That practically is impossible. But in terms of implementation, there is a workable plan that is giving us the results. And so we can only be hopeful.
Pakosi, I appreciate the way you're dealing with it. But is it not ironic to say that you've stopped the bleeding, you are dealing with the situation, and so no new excavators are getting into the forest or doing the devastation. Yet, the water bodies are getting worse. The NTU levels are skyrocketing. Now we are in the regions of 90,000, when in the past, it was just around 14,000 or so, and we're screaming. Now we've gone beyond 90,000. Ghana Water Company is complaining. They've shut down certain stations. We last week or 2 weeks ago heard of the Ayensu River and all of that. So the situation is actually worsening at a time you say you have, stopped the bleeding, and then no new excavators are getting into the system. So it's quite ironic, is it not?
It is not ironic. The facts that you have communicated are fair. They are truthful, except that is not the entire picture. When you look at the turbidity levels of the water, indeed, I'm driving at the moment, and so I don't have the fact sheet, but I'm sure at another opportunity I can present it to you. It is indeed true that at certain places it has increased, but there is also an abundance of data to show that at certain places too, it has decreased remarkably through the instrumentality of the policies that are currently in place. And so it is not a perfect situation. And again, it goes back to all that I have been saying, that we are not expecting perfect outcomes as of now, but we are doing our very best. Now, in that spirit of doing your very best, we are actually getting remarkable results, albeit not perfect. And so we can only begin to anticipate good things as we progress. Yes, I've seen the numbers. I've seen the releases that have come and the concerns and the sentiments from the Ghana Water Company, how that they would even have to shut down some of their treatment plants. In fact, some have already been closed. It is of concern. But is it getting better in other areas? Yes, it is getting better. Should we stay with that same momentum? We'll continue to do that until finally we've been able to overhaul the entirety of the situation across board.
Very well. So when are we getting clarity on the security zone declaration, and what legal regime are we working under?
Okay, so what would be done, we have to put on record, it's not the same as the declaration of a state of emergency. What we are doing is basically categorizing the 44. We have 288 forest reserves across the country. A total of over 5,500 hectares of land have been decimated. If you want to get the picture clearly, then you are looking at over some 7,500 football pitches. Because of this, what we are saying is that all the 44 forest reserves, effective when it is announced, will become security zones, same for the water bodies. Now, I had mentioned earlier that the plan has actually been drawn. The deployment strategy has also been scripted. What we are awaiting is a couple of things, including the financial clearance to be done. Then the deployment would be done. But that should be, actually, it could be any moment from now, because like the minister has said, we are in battle, and therefore we cannot decide to be complacent or rest on our laurels or be relaxed about anything. And so the deployment would actually be any moment from now. With respect to the legal framework that will regulate this whole particular intervention, the conversations are ongoing, and it would accompany the declaration as well. I mean, the declaration of the official declaration of the, or rather, let me say, the official implementation of the mechanism of the security zones. The proper and appropriate laws would be communicated once that is done. But it should be very, very soon. Any moment from now, that should be done. Because, like I said, as the spokesperson for the National Anti-Illegal Mining Operations Secretariat, I am aware competently and convincingly that the strategy has already been implemented, and it is going to be done across the 6 endemic regions where Galamsey is very prominent, vis-a-vis the Ashanti region, the Eastern region, some parts of the Central region, the Western North regions, and any other place, even in the Savannah regions, there are some mild incursions in any area at all. But principally, we are dealing with 6. Forgive me if I'm not able to settle on them specifically. But for those 6 endemic areas, all the water bodies and the forest reserves there would be declared as security zones. And like the minister indicated, if you are found there, you'll be there at your own risk.
Very well. Bagwesi Shandoff, I appreciate your time and everything you said. We hope that we see results pretty soon. Great.
Sure.
Ismond, Well, the ministry is speaking. What, from your viewpoint, should be done to ensure that we have a normalization or maybe a restoration of our water bodies? Briefly, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I'm somehow encouraged by Pakwe's submission. It appears something is being done. For us, like I always say, we are not pressure groups. We are not politicians. What we're dealing with is data. The studies provide scientific evidence of the extent and severity of heavy metal contamination caused by illegal mining. This data is crucial to making a case for policymakers of the need for action and justify policy changes. TVET, with our long-standing global expertise in identifying and mitigating pollution hotspots, we are deeply committed to partnering with governments of Ghana to address this crisis. This study provides critical data, and we stand ready to offer our technical expertise and support in developing and implementing effective solutions. We can talk about, in terms of policy recommendation, strengthening environmental regulation and enforcement, as he's saying, providing alternative livelihood for miners to reduce reliance on illegal mining, and implementing remediation strategies for contaminated sites. I mean, Selorm, if you travel across these sites we are talking about, I mean, the devastation is enormous. And not just the devastation. Now we're talking about these heavy metals, that are finding their way from the environment into the food chain and the water bodies. We are all at risk, and we believe something needs to be done. It's a good call for government to act drastically, and I'm encouraged by Pakwe's submission. I hope that the words are actually put into action, and we would be on standby to provide any support, technical-wise, to address the environmental reclamation and remediation.
Very well. Thank you so much. Thanks so much, Ismon Wisdom Kwanzaa, Country Director for Pure Earth Ghana. Also, you heard earlier from Pakwe Shishandov, who is the Media Relations Officer for the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. This is how we conclude today's edition of the program. Been live from our studios here at number 5 Olo Hansen Link in Tesano. And of course, we've been live on 97.3 City FM as well. So the City Business Olympics is ongoing at the Eden Heights. If you're not there yet, you want to make your way there. This is how we conclude today's edition of the program. I'm Selorm Adonoo. Thanks so much for doing the listening and the viewing. Catch you same time next week for another episode. Have a good afternoon.